Hello, hey, and welcome to my tent, a place to hear life experiences, different opinions, a range of journeys, and a viewpoint different than our own. A place to challenge our own thoughts, a space to learn a little bit, and I promise some fun along the way. I believe we're better when we let a range of people into our tents, so welcome to mine. Did you know that our health is encompassed by way more than just food and fitness? Did you know I'm a health coach? What is a health coach? I can tell you. I work with individuals and groups to look at all aspects of life that help make us truly well. I have structured programs to help you create realistic, challenging but achievable, and long-term transformations that span long past our time working together. I help you take a multifaceted approach to your health, ranging from food, fitness, relationships, work-life balance, financial health, gratitude and joy, creativity, career, and more. If you are looking to make a health transformation, visit my website in the show notes or email me, sarah@sarahjohnstonwellness.com. Cheers to good health. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. A little slow to the draw this morning. I was on a bachelorette party
That's fun.
in Charleston all weekend, and so
Oh my God. When did you get back?
Saturday actually. So at least I
Okay.
had like all day.
A little bit of a
Yesterday?
window to, yeah.
But we were out until like 2 in the morning one
Oh
night.
my gosh.
Things I don't do anymore. It's so good to see you.
Wow.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm great. Yeah. All good. Having to drive through the last week of school with kiddos. So
That's always my question is like, what do you do with them in the summer?
my kids go to camp. They go to this amazing day camp that actually I work at in the morning and then see clients afterwards, which is super fun. And it's amazing. If they pick, it's like real camp. Like they do swimming and boating and arts and crafts and soccer and all the things. And a bus picks them up at my front door at like 8:30 in the morning. And not even like before that, like 8 o'clock in the morning. You put a bathing suit on them. They give you the backpack if they go. You throw a towel in their backpack. They get morning snack, lunch, afternoon ice cream. They're not on screens. They come home sweaty, disgusting, exhausted, and tired. You hose them down, feed them, and who cares what the rest of their night looks like? And they love it. It's like their happiest place on earth. They love camp.
Oh my God, well, I love that. That's always like, okay, what do you do? And they're old enough, they're out of daycare. But
yeah.
Anyway, I'm so excited for this combo. I'm so excited to see you. Everyone, we have Liz Lehman. That's correct, right? Yes.
Yep.
I love when I nail the name from Nourished Fam here today. And we have just gotten the absolute pleasure of connecting via the internet, which is usually the best, sometimes the worst, but usually the best. And I am just fascinated by her in general, but also you're one of the most wonderful, warm hug kind of humans out there.
It takes one to know one.
So I am so excited to have you here today. We're going to chat about a couple different things in relation to the work that you do, but also kind of just this whole like parenting, humaning experience in general, because I do kind of feel like a lot of your work ties into supporting humans, which is, I think,
100%
what we need a lot more of. So I'd love to kind of dive in first, because I'd actually never heard of a postpartum doula until I met you, because I'm used to hearing doula, which I think a lot of
everyone thinks birth.
Right, which thinks birth, but you are much more in like supporting families also, which I was fascinated by, families, total family units in the postpartum experience. So do you want to walk us through saying hi and introducing yourself, but also like what exactly is a postpartum doula and what do you do with that?
Okay, well, I'm so pumped that we get to do this because it's always so fun when we get to chat anyway. And now that people get to hear our ramblings, it's great. So, I'm Liz Lehman of Nourished Families, Nourished Fam on all the socials. And I am a certified postpartum doula and a certified lactation consultant. My doula work came first. There was a clear chicken egg, I know the order situation. And a postpartum doula is for the first, it's specifically for that fourth trimester, the first 3 months of life, which are a goat rodeo of a hormonal tsunami and also just having to keep a 24-hour need machine alive. It's just absolute hormonal tsunami is how I describe it. And what differs in a postpartum doula rather than like a baby nurse or something like that is a postpartum doula is full family support. So we support physically, emotionally, functionally the birthing parent. We support also physically and emotionally the supporting parent, should there be one. We teach about baby, everything from diapering to bathing to breastfeeding to wearing and everything else you can think of. And then if there are other people in the house, whether it be grandparents, extended family, siblings, we help get everybody's needs met to like create a situation where you are more confident in moving past those first 3 months. So I always tell people my goal my sessions are generally in 3 hour increments. Different
Mhm.
doulas do different things, but that's generally the standard of care for the first 3 months. For me, it's as frequently as you want. Some people choose 5 days a week. Some people for all 3 months. Some people, you know, have increments all over here and there.
Yeah.
But I always say that when I leave someone's home for every session I leave, I try to invoke the feeling that cartoon bluebirds are like flying around your house. Like maybe it was chaos, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to try to keep doing this. I have the strength to keep doing it. So, yeah. And then along with that, we do some functional things too. So, light housekeeping, laundry of the entire family, a lot of meal prep stuff. That's a big one. And then I also like try to my families leave with the recipes that I've taught them. And they're always generally like, there's healing ones that we work with, but then there's also
Yeah.
ones that can be a part of your arsenal that are like one pot wonders or sheet pan things and stuff like that. Yeah. And then as it goes on, I even go so far in my services. If you're going to put your child in childcare of any sort or a nanny, I'll help you navigate all of that into transition. So you really feel like you got your sea legs underneath you and you can, you know, keep trying to do this crazy thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the work you do because I do feel like so much of you bring a baby home, all the questions are, how's the baby?
Yeah.
What's the baby doing? And that's that very valid and wonderful.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times what's also just completely missed is the state of the person who birthed them, as well
Totally.
as the family in general. And I read something, I reposted it that wasn't like, it doesn't take a village to raise a kid. It takes a village to like support, in particular, the mother. It was speaking
Of
in
course.
terms of the
Yeah.
mother in specific, but
Absolutely.
I so realize that it's almost like people forget that you exist. How's the baby? How's the baby sleeping?
Yeah.
How's the baby eating? And it's like, I always now ask them, like, how are you eating? Are
You.
you eating?
Yeah.
Do you need food? Do you need something? And
Yeah.
like, I think it's really, really true. And I really love that in the work that you do, because I think you bring this person in and everyone's like, what the hell do I do? And then even a second layer of, you may bring another baby into your house. That's a different baby. It's a
Every
different,
baby's different. It's everything soup to nuts is completely different. And
yeah,
it's so funny because a lot of times, especially with like slightly like the grandmom generation, they will say like, oh my gosh, you have the best job in the world. You get to hold babies all day long. And they are right. I do have the best job in the world, truly, except more often than not, the babies are the least thing I touch.
yeah,
Like generally I'm holding moms and I'm walking them through because I mean, we're both mothers. You both know, like when you're in those first 3 months, it's like you're in this crazy bubble of utter chaos. Whether you're feeding from the body or pumping and feeding with a bottle or skipping it all together and using formula, whatever feels best to your heart is the right answer. Um, you're doing it nonstop.
yeah,
You're like, there's no time and space. The days don't exist. You're just holding on. And it's so easy to stop working. Everyone stop. The birthing parent, and more often than not, it's women, they stop caring for themselves. They're so hyper focused on the baby. And then on top of that, you are, you lose your own identity outside of just keeping this person going. And that is what I so often see be, I don't want to say like the problem, but like the struggle for
yeah,
sure for everybody in the scenario. And it's true for partners too, like, especially with its first babies. That's really true for all babies, whether it's your first or your 21st. But
yeah,
if you've been this unit and it's been working so well that you thought, hey, let's try this again. And you can lose sight of one another. So many things happen in a relationship that can cause so much turmoil or just sort of like feelings of being invisible. That's what I notice the most. And if you
Mm-hmm.
can notice for a new parent, both of them, and again, I always lean towards moms for sure. But if you can just acknowledge their existence, that like one, even if it's just taking someone's hand and saying, this is so hard.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to validate your feelings of how hard this is because there's so much guilt around loving your babies. And of course, you love your babies. But for some, it takes a long time to like them. Which is also perfectly acceptable. It takes a really hard time sometimes to like yourself and understand how you want to be seen in this new role. How does it fit into your old life? What is it going to look like moving forward? How do you sort of like take it all? And then also, the other thing that I am always saying to families is there's this ambient noise in our culture that the baby comes and you just know what you're doing and it all works and all the things.
Yeah.
And the idea of like, forget the first 3 months. My kiddos are about to be 11 and literally about to be 14. Both of them are like weeks away from both. And I still have no idea what I'm doing.
My mom said the same thing. When I was like
Yeah.
about to have my son, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And she's like, you're almost 35 and I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And like, you shouldn't, we all have this strong desire to, in all things. I mean, it is amplified and magnified when it comes to birthing and parenting because there's this idea that you have to do it perfectly, or not even perfectly, but just do it with all that you've got and do it everything you've got. And a lot of us pair that with doing it quote unquote right. Um, but I say it all the time, humaning is so hard.
It
And
is.
every single day of our lives, every heartbeat that you come in contact with is different from the day before because you had yesterday's experiences. And so often in my work, that is where I see like new moms just that's where they lose it because that first 3 months is so much change. There's so much learning. There's so much growth. There's so much development. And if I literally had even just a penny for every time I heard this, I would be in a much better financial place.
Be a
But
billionaire.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then like every time I had it figured out and then it went wrong. Like, what am I doing wrong? Nothing. Your baby is growing and developing. Of course, it's going to change on a moment. I always dumb it really down to things as simple as when our babies are born, their stomach is the size of an acorn. And by the end of the first month, it's the size of like an apricot or an egg.
Oh, wow.
So, like, if you think about just that one change for that little tiny human, like, how did you expect that little person was going to be the same thing on day one that they are on day 101 or, like 691 or whatever it is?
Yeah.
They're growing. You can't, it's not real.
Yeah. And I
A
think
bill of goods we've been sold.
I struggled with too is like when you get to a certain point, obviously adults were ever changing and whatnot, but like who I was 90 days ago is like relatively who I am
Yeah.
sitting in front of you today. And
Right.
I really struggled to wrap my head around that concept of like letting go because I think we're also very taught that babies are robots. And so in particular with sleep or with their miles eating development, whatever, we're kind of
Yeah.
taught like by the clock. And I'm like, at a certain point, I'm looking at my husband like, I I don't do that by the clock. And I'm a
No.
quote unquote adult. Am I really, whatever.
Right.
I'm whatever I am. But like
I fake it really well.
I'm like, I don't know. And I think that's also what we struggle with is like the internet can be such a great place. Obviously, I have found wonderful people like you, but I think it can be like equally overwhelming because we're trying to search for answers for things that there's never going to be an answer to because no one's put out a rule book for my kid.
Yeah. And even worse than that, I agree with that 400%. And even worse is that people will go online and they'll do all the research and they'll talk to their friends and they'll do all the research. And you can be like steadfast in this one way and you're going down this route and this route is great and this is the one. And then you click on something else and it tells you the complete opposite of all of it. And that is so much of my work, really the entirety of my work. And actually kind of my being as a person in general
Right.
is just to like try to empower people. You and I have talked about this before, and I love this. One of your, I can't remember her name now, but one of your guests said it, is to follow that inner voice. And you and I have talked about it. And I loved when one of your guests said it was anxiety screams, intuition whispers. And
Yeah.
that, I just think it was literally one of the most powerful statements I've ever heard. I haven't ever really been able to articulate it like that until I heard it.
Yeah.
And I say that all the time, like, trust that mom gut, trust how your walls feel before baby was here. And if you loved them, go back to that. You can, there's so many things, and part of it is bigger than us, right? Like as a new parent, especially if you're the birthing parent, your hormones are literally out of control. So as they should be, but that makes it so much harder because the way you used to sort of wrap your arms around gaining control or understanding or even grace for yourself now is completely different than what it was. And it's
Yep.
physiological, but you're not really aware of it. It's changing now because of the good corners of the internet where we're screaming it at the top of our lungs. Like if you feel crazy, that is right. You are healthy, not in a dangerous way. If you're sad or obsessive or
Right.
anxious, in an extreme way, that's not okay. But if you, it's so those statistics I actually love. In the first 8 weeks postpartum, 80% of women and birthing parents experience baby blues. That idea
Yeah.
of like you're laughing 1 minute and crying, and that's underreported. And then after that, the amount of people who experience postpartum mood disorders is crazy high too. It's like, I think it's like something like 1 in 8 women experience some sort of postpartum mood disorder. And that is insanely underreported. And then there's men experience postpartum depression, and 20 to 30% of men experience some sort of postpartum mood disorder. And that is highly underreported. And it's not just underreported because people feel shame about it. It's underreported because they go to their doctors and they say, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. And doctors, even with the best of intentions, say, you just had a baby. Of course you feel that way. You're sleepless. You're this, you're that.
And you're supposed to like it. Like that is, I think, where a lot of us get caught up is this like, oh, isn't it just the most blissful experience? And yes. And then I opened up a lot about this. And I think that this is where like the work that you do and how you live very transparently and want to talk about these things, like gives people permission to be like, holy shit, me too.
Yeah,
Because I really struggled with some brutal invasive thoughts, some pretty terrifying
yeah,
ones. Like
yeah,
the worst for me were the ones where I was purposely hurting. Like I was like, what if I just threw
yeah,
him down the stairs real quick? And then I'd be
yes.
like, what is wrong
So
with me?
it's
And
super common.
I opened up about it and people were like, oh my God, I thought that I was broken. I thought that I
Yes.
was the worst mom because we're taught, love it, love every second. You're
Yep.
glowing, you're blissful, you're this, you're that. Like I felt that way about pregnancy too. People are like, isn't it
Oh, I
magical? I'm
hate it.
like, no, I've been vomiting for 20 weeks. Like this
Me
isn't
too.
magical. Like,
From
no,
conception to delivery, like
like,
all day, every
no.
day. It's awful. Yeah.
Like we're supposed to just be obsessed and do it gracefully. And I think that's where a lot of people don't want to open up about it or aren't sure what to do about it because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm a mom. I should be loving every second of this. And I love what you said or just, earlier in this episode. Like we can love it and not like it. And I
Yeah.
and I think that's where we're starting to, I hope, take a turn on these conversations and like be
Me
like, yo,
too.
and yes, and like I
Yeah.
am grateful and
Yeah. And you don't have to be all the time. There are some days you can just be like, no, you know what? Today sucks. I hate all of this. I miss my old life. I miss my old life freedom. You can still love all the things, but you can have a whole day where you're like, no, every part of this sucks.
yeah,
And I want to hand this person to another person because I cannot carry this load today. And that's
yeah,
perfectly okay. Like
yeah,
I actually think it's more than okay. I think it's actually something that needs to be celebrated. I liken it, I dumb it down a lot. It tends to be how I move through the world. But like, even if you're doing a job that you love, that you're passionate about, and it fills your cup and it's all the things, you still love the weekend. You still love when you can like turn off and get lost in some whatever bingey something or other, or go for a walk or do all the things. It's parenting is the only I think maybe marriage too, but it's more acceptable to like say that you want to kill your spouse
Yeah.
sometimes. Obviously, like it's funny, but parenting is like that one job where one, in any career you have started, you would not expect to know everything on
Right.
day one or month three or month six, even year one, quite frankly. You would be commended for asking lots more questions. On top of that, outside of parenting, there's almost nothing that you can say, I love every minute of it, that you're supposed to love every minute of it. Like parenting's the only place where that happens. Like, are you kidding me? I love my children. I will be super upfront about this. I love and adore my children. I actually really like them too, where they're at an age where I really, really
Yeah.
dig them. I love spending time with them. And it's a big and, when I'm divorced, I've been divorced for just shy of 5 years. I was a full time stay at home mom for the first 9 years of my daughter's life. She's older, so 6 and 9 for my kids. And I was almost a solo parent. I did, my ex helped, but not a lot. And part of the reason why I have such like such crazy love and nuts for my kids right now is I do it half the time.
Right.
Like I love them. And we just came off, like the way our schedule is like sort of 5 days on, 5 days off. So we have weekends and then we have 2 days plucked always that stay the same. But like my son had pneumonia last week. It was my 5 days. He spent more, he's fine, but thank you. Like, not to worry, but he's
Yeah.
fine. And like they, and that was like from Friday to, I mean, I kept him last week a lot of the days with me because he's sort of attached to me and all the things. But Wednesday night, this Wednesday night, begins my 5 days off. And I got to tell you, I'm really happy when they leave for school Wednesday morning. Like, I will call you, I will hear. They only live a mile away from me. So, like, I'm at all the things. We really don't miss that much. But yeah, I'm a much better parent now. And I was a pretty good parent then, but I am much, much better now when I'm like, oh, I get a reprieve. I can take deep breaths. I get to know me again. And that is a thing a lot of times when I'm in homes that I'm always sort of trying to like preach and talk about and like learn, like, let me be your cautionary tale, learn from my mistakes. A partnership is really important, and getting away is super important, and keeping all the pieces of you is super important. And it's important for your kids too. Honestly, I stand by that too. I think it's really phenomenal for our children to see that we are people besides just their person.
Right. Because what I say, I'm a mother, but a mother is not all that I am.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an interesting piece because I have many of friends that are, newer parents, and some of them really did have that strong pull and desire to stay home. And
Yeah.
and that they're like, I, in the depths of my soul, Sarah, like knew from a young age I was meant to be a mother. And I'm like,
Yeah.
bravo, fantastic. I was, no, like I
Yeah.
knew I needed to go back to work. I knew that I needed to reclaim parts of me. Um,
Yeah.
but to some pushback, like some people don't get that. Some people, I mean, and yeah, some of it's like internet trolls of like, you're just going to ditch your kid. You're going to like,
Right.
I'm not ditching my kid. I'm still a very full and present parent. And even like this past weekend, like I went away and I was in Charleston
Yeah.
and I literally handed Ronan over, and Duke's like, we
Yeah.
got this. See you in a few days.
Yeah.
Like, have fun. And I don't know if there's apprehension or like guilt that some mothers, maybe in particular, like newer mothers, feel of like that separation of like, the one thing that I should do and the only thing that I should do is this. And I think it is an important aspect to like talking about the village, right? We hear
Mm-hmm.
about this village. And then I feel like some people are like, I feel like I've been sold a bill of goods because where the fuck's the village? And I'm like,
Right.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I understand. I understand. But I
Yeah.
think a big piece of that is, yes, like it's nice to have the village to help with a baby. Like, we had my
Yeah.
mom come at some points, like that's great. But I think what also is a really important part is finding a village of people that will encourage you to come back to yourself. That's like a
Yeah.
completely separate thing than,
Yeah.
do you need me to hold your baby or do your dishes? Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
friends and the people that kind of say like, it's okay to get pieces of yourself back. Like
Yeah. The
that's, I
people
think,
who
big.
encourage you to do it. It's so much so. The people who are like, I'm going to hold your baby so that I can pass it to somebody else because I need to take you out and we need to do whatever. And it can be, and it looks different for everybody. You know,
Yeah.
my sister-in-law was someone who was a very career-oriented person. And my youngest nephew has a rare genetic disorder where he has a lot of physical and medical and developmental issues. She has two boys and she needed to go back to work.
Yeah.
In order for her to be the incredible present on top of everything parent that she is, she couldn't be home. It would have killed her. And then I loved being home. I
Yeah.
loved it. I loved the newborn stage. I'm obviously, you can take toddlers and you can have them. Like, and not even because not only because they're schizophrenic narcissists, but because I just like straight up, I got like tired of playing.
Yeah. You've said that.
That's not my thing. I'll do a craft with you all day long. Let's go for a walk. Let's go for a hike. But like, please don't make me move these cars and these dolls. Like, I have no interest. I mean, I loved them and it was fun. I can look back on that with nostalgia, but it wasn't my fun every day. You hit like 2.5. I'll take him back at 4. Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
But in and around all of that, separate from that part and being present in that part, taking back a piece of you, it looks different for everybody. Maybe it's just needing to go to the gym 3 times a week and like having that be your focus and something that really matters to you. Or it can be, some stay-at-home moms, it's like room mom and on the PTOs and all these things. Some people choose a part-time work. And even like I've worked with people who are like, I want to be home a lot for them, but I also want to leave the house and do something. And they find like something clerical in an office that just puts their minds. It looks different for everybody. I am currently waiting on a few babies, but this one baby to be born almost any minute now. And this mama is incredible. She's strong. She's smart. She's a professor at one of our universities around here, research, all the things. And she loves the postpartum period. She has concerns. That's why I'm there. She dealt with some, PPMD stuff. And she said to me, like, listen, I love to cook. And when you're here, I'm going to need, like, I really want to like have some time to cook. That's what centers me and feels right. And then she also said, but be careful because if I'm struggling, I'll obsess about cooking and I'll never, but that thing, like she put it out there, right? I'm not, she has a certain amount of time off. She's super excited for it. She's doing other things. She's like, but in order to know that I am also something separate from the person who just pushed this baby out, I'm going to need, like, if I'm going to be there 5 days a week, she's like 2 or 3 days a week. If I could just have 2 hours in the kitchen without anybody around and it's just my space and my things. And that is like, and it's really hard to find. And we all feel like we have to sort of justify it.
That's the part that I like love these conversations because this doesn't go away. And I do also think it applies to like parents are not, because the way that I think of it is like when you're younger, the only thing that you really have to worry about is yourself. You're little, people take care of things. And then the stakes get higher. You're going to high school, then maybe you're going to a college, and then you're post-grad and you're for jobs, and then you get more responsibilities and you never really give it away. Same thing kind of for like getting married. It's like you've lived one way for a very long time, and then you add this person that you're like cohabitating with, and nothing really ever goes away. And I think I talk to a lot of my friends about this and people that I've connected with, where it's like all of a sudden you're a shell. And you are so disconnected from anything that brings you back to center.
Yeah.
Because we're adults that are busy and we have a lot of responsibilities and we have to keep a home running and bills paid. And maybe kids are part of that mix. Maybe they're not.
Because we're keeping statistics of what we're doing.
Yes.
That's what's happening.
Yes.
Everyone's keeping score of what we're doing. And like, maybe cooking is your thing, but also maybe your thing that brings you back to center is handing off the entire world and sitting in front of a television for 4 hours.
Right.
Like there's this whole crazy idea of like keeping score and keeping productivity and showing off what you can do. And everyone and no one, and PS, nobody's winning. Nobody's doing it right. The working parents think, oh my God, all you do is stay at home. The stay-at-home parents think, I remember being in a million situations being like, well, I'm going out with these people and I'm just a stay-at-home mom. Like, and so I felt like I had, as a stay-at-home mom, I was the chair board of their preschool. And I was like, I had to do all this stuff, like, because there's some weird, like, imaginary scoreboard that we're all keeping track where there's supposed to be this insane level of like contribution and productivity
Right.
instead of just letting go and moving through the world. I mean, the truth is, in my estimation, and of course, like I'm sitting on this podcast, you know, if you were in my office, there's stuff everywhere. I have tons of things I need to be, doing all this stuff. But I think what makes the world a better place is allowing everyone to breathe, and that like you don't, maybe the score that is kept is that you smiled at someone and held a door.
Yeah.
Because you were going to get ice cream because you needed a Jim Dandy sundae. Yeah. Like,
You needed.
Not for any other reason, but there is like this. And I mean, like, listen, I feel it all the time. Where is the next thing coming? What am I doing? How am I the constant idea of growing my business? You know, again, I'm going to have a rising 6th grader and a rising 8th grader. And like, I'm already for that 8th grader thinking about like, okay, well, if you want to go to school, what activities are you in? What are your on? It's all this crazy productivity. My partner in my life has 2 boys and they're both in college, and his older is not a student. And actually a very close friend of mine, his son is graduating high school and he is not a student. And both of these men have said to their sons respectively, like the one loves to surf and snowboard. And he was like, why don't you just like give school a break and go out west and teach snowboarding in the winters and be on, our East Coast and teach surfing in the summers and just do that.
And that might be the best absolute thing,
the best thing
for you.
Greatest life ever. My other friend, his son is not a student. College is not, he's graduating and not even going. And he just likes to make music. And like, he's going to try that for a while. Like this idea of big productivity and like success and your resume and what are the things that are, it's really drowning all of us. It's really exhausting. And it does all feel like it starts with the idea of like making a family and what it's the Christmas card, right? Like it's the holiday card. And there's beauty in it. I don't want to like, be disparaging of all of it. And also like learning to breathe is such a gift. I do think I watch my children who are getting older and the people who like their peers. And I do think there is a little bit of brevity that is happening in the world. Yeah. People are becoming more, not in a perfect world. Certainly we have a ton of work to do. There's a lot of our world that is falling apart literally right in front of our eyes. And also these young people are really saying like, come as you are.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm amazed by when I watch my daughter, like I said, who's going to be 14, is she is an incredible human. And I would love to say that I built that. I have not. She came into this world and she has been the same person she has been from the moment she came into this world. And I have the gift of watching her walk her path, and I shine the flashlight so she can see the road, but it is hers. She has done it. It's incredible. I mean, all of this is about to get tested. We're 14 and
I was
going to be in 8th
like,
grade, and all the big scary things are happening.
That's a year. That's a year.
It's a big year, and all the big scary things are happening. And also, I have watched her, especially like coming back into the world after the pandemic, really just be like, this is who I am. And watch her friends like really love, and she does the same for her friends and really love it. She always says like we have sleepovers and all the things and all the adventures, and she'll have like a day or two with all the friends in all the places doing all the things. And then she will say to them, you have to go home now.
Yeah.
And they're like, why? And she's like, because I've done you enough.
Like,
I can't human anymore. And like, they'll all be in my house, like flopping, and we're all talking, and she'll just exit stage left. And I'll say like, where is she? And they go, oh, she just has to go. And she's adored. I mean, because it's honest and it's real. Yeah. And when she's present, she's present. And when she can't do it anymore, she makes no apologies for it.
Good for her.
The tens to probably hundreds of thousands of dollars I could have saved myself in therapy, and still, if I would have been okay with being the best and messy, if I would have known that my messy parts were as beautiful as my best parts,
or they are, it's not even good or bad.
Yeah.
It's you. And this is something that we've talked about too, and how this is the work that you've done I would say in particular over the past 5 years have been a really
Yeah.
big
For sure.
period of growth for you.
For sure.
Is just almost saying like, I'm here, period.
Yeah.
This is me messy. This is me not
Yeah.
messy. This is like, no, this is what
Yeah.
I also strive for with Ronan. And we've talked about this too, is like that concept of like how we tell him like, you are loved. It's not like I, I don't
Yeah.
own you. I am
Yeah.
not like the sole reason. Yeah, like sure, I did make you in my body, which is like great. But
Right. Yeah.
like, like I am
I
not the sole reason that, you will do things. And I think that the more that we can encourage those conversations too, and like, this is a big thing that I've been on this whole walkabout on myself too, is like, I've become a lot more of myself. And sure, there have been like things and people that haven't wanted to come along on that journey, and that is okay. But I think the more that we can show up like that and encourage our kids and encourage our
Yeah.
like, and I think this it starts from the work that you do in these homes from the time that they come out of that
Yeah.
womb, is like,
Yeah.
find those pieces of yourself, be unapologetic about that, and encourage your children and the people around you, encourage your partners, your husbands, your
Yeah.
friends to show up as they are. And it is neither good
100%.
nor bad. It is none of that. It's just who you
It's
are. Like
so the
who you
crux
are.
of every conversation I have,
Yeah.
no matter what part of my job I'm doing. Like, I go lactation, that's a huge piece in feeding, huge. And I go into people's homes, and the feeding parent, again, usually a mother, has read the things. And yes, breastfeeding is cool. It's miraculous. It's neat. We're mammals. It's very cool in that sense. It's also like really basic and simple, and we overthink it in all the
Yeah.
ways because we're just mammals. But um, this idea, and one of the things I say before anyone hires me in any capacity, but especially in the lactation world, is I am not the CLC that's going to come into your house and be dogmatic. And like, if this doesn't feel right to you, then it is wrong. That is
Right.
correct. And I always double that down with, I'll tell a client, like, I want you to, or take the baby, and I'll have them do a couple deep breaths, and I'll say, close your eyes and think of a person in your world that when you have your act together, you're going to be like, I am crushing life. I'm doing it. I feel so good. This is the best. But if I can be like X, I am doing life right. And then say to yourself, do you know whether that baby was formula fed or breastfed? You don't. You have no idea. But
Right.
if you know, more often than not, and I had a friend staying with me who was a former client, she had, because they have to be in our area and they moved away. And my daughter and son were playing with her littles who are teeny. And we were talking about parenting, and she was commenting on, like just our house and the vibe in our house and all the things. And she was like, she listens to all the podcasts, she worries about all the things. And at the end of the day, like, all of us, every single one of us, like, we're just looking for that loved, soft, safe space to land. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's really, we've talked about it both about to each other, about one another, and about ourselves. All the work that I've done in my life through all of the mistakes or losses, none of them, they have bad words. The connotation of mistake or loss is bad. But I would have never, there's so many things that I say in my head that sound so trite,
Oh,
but like,
yeah.
they're so true. Like, there is no rainbow without rain. Last night, my son and I went to my partner's house. He had never seen the movie Inside Out, and we watched it. And it's such a phenomenal movie, because that's the thing, right? Like, you can't have joy without sadness. And one of my very favorite scenes, and it's so silly because I'm not really a Disney person or all of those things, but I do adore that movie, is with the imaginary friend who is sad, and joy is dancing and crazy and come on, it's okay, it's okay. And sadness just sits next to him and says, like, I bet it's really sad. I bet that really hurt your feelings. I bet it feels really not great. And like, you watch that, and it's so beautiful. And there's so much joy in that idea of just acknowledging. We all want to like have the answers and solve the problems and get to the end of the equation so we can get our gold star. But the truth is, like, sometimes you just have to be in the mess. And if you can like lay on your back and backstroke and kick your feet, it sometimes can like really just sort of not just like wrap yourself and give you that tight compression that you need, but then it can springboard you into whatever your next is.
Yeah.
Whatever that may be. The family who is staying with me, the reason they're staying with me is their very best friends. The mom of the very, very best friend had a sudden, unexpected, crazy, tragic loss. And she passed away at Christmas time this year.
Mm-hmm.
And it was out of nowhere, like literally out of nowhere. And this mom friend struggled with a lot of PPMD and all the worry and all the things. And we were literally sitting on my couch this morning. And I say it to myself all the time, especially since I look back, because my firstborn who passed would be 15 this year. And you can make all the plans in the world. And it's just said all the time, but it's so real and so true. Life changes in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Whether you're happy or you're sad, it just changes. One thing you can guarantee is that it will change. You will get through whatever through looks like.
I don't love that, but it's true.
I know, but it's true.
I was talking to my dad and he was on his way out and we all knew it and he knew it. And it's kind of like, I'm sad and this and that. And he's like, Sarah, you could be hit by a bus tomorrow. Like literally. Like, yeah, we just happen to know that like I'm on the way out. We just happen to know this. Like, but I also could be hit by a bus tomorrow.
We've talked about how similar our dads have sounded. My dad too passed away. And I will never forget one of the days, like in his last couple of months, I was sitting in bed with him because he was pretty, was in bed more than he wasn't. And we were watching the news and he was a political guy. He was a lawyer and into all of those things. And he turned to me. So my name is Liz. My dad called me Tish because he thought it rhymed with Liz. It doesn't. And he just looked at me and he's like, Tish, the son of a bitch of it all is life just keeps on going.
And that is, I think pretty much it.
Yeah, he's like, I really thought for a second that it would stop once I stopped, but son of a bitch, Tish, it just keeps on going.
That's the name of this podcast. Son of a bitch,
yeah,
Tish.
Son of a bitch, Tish. Exactly. Yeah. But it's so true, right? I mean, and even though you and I have talked about this so much, Sarah, like our lives have been profoundly changed since the loss of our fathers, of course, and they're with us. And there's so many times I go to pick up my phone. I'm like, man, that's it. Whatever.
Yeah.
And also, like, life goes on. You had Rowan, I had Sully, like, like we had all these things that they weren't necessarily present for. And it's still all the things.
It's still, yeah.
And it all just keeps happening. Life just keeps on lifing.
And I know that, I feel like people are like, how much do you guys talk? Like a lot. Like we've talked about this before too.
Yeah.
Where I think you do a good job of this as well. Like age appropriately, yes, but also not shielding your kids from like, puppies and rainbows and like bad shit, scary shit happens. Like bad shit happens. And
I didn't have a choice in it, but once it's there, you got to validate it for them. Yeah.
And I think my parents did a pretty good job of that too. And, my parents were divorced. Like they never really shied away from talking about the parts of life that were also more difficult, but like with also the reality that like you can find other humans that make it feel less crappy. And I think that's what we hope to do with, we're going to give him his own complex, but we're not.
Of course, we're all the one thing we can guarantee is
we're going to mess our kids up in some way.
100,000%.
We're going to give them something, but it's like with that, I think keeping those lines of communication open and like, you're a whole person, right? Mm-hmm. You are beautiful, wonderful, strong, however you want to show up. And we're not supposed to do this alone. Like no one is supposed to trudge this out alone.
Absolutely.
And I think so much of things that happen as we're adults, whether that be the birth of a child or these big pivotal things, we can like curl back up into our corners where we like shut the little door and we're like in there by ourselves. And it can happen really fast. It can happen really fast and it can happen without us even really noticing. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, I am on an island.
Yeah.
Without cell service, without water, without food.
No one's coming to fix this.
I don't know how the hell to get out of here. Yeah. I don't know how the hell to get out of there.
I am very, very honest with my kids. full disclosure, they're both in therapy, but I am
Good.
ridiculously honest with my children. And I would love to say that I had this plan of being that way. I mean, I always knew I was going to be who I was as a mom. That was important to me. And also, I, I had no choice. My marriage was not a happy, safe place. And I spent a lot of time shielding them from that, but they already felt it.
Yeah.
So once you're through that, and I've already allowed the damage, he's already allowed the damage, and we do great now. We co-parent so much better. I mean, literally, I was on the phone with him today talking about stuff with our daughter, and I witnessed a scary thing. Oh, it's actually really heartbreaking. I had to drop off pants to my daughter at her middle school, and there was a young man who clearly was struggling with mental health, and there were like teacher, and he was trying to get out. It was awful. It was awful. He
Oh
was
my
screaming. There were
God.
police officers and teachers being so kind and trying to make him feel safe, and it was terrifying. And I happened to be on the phone with my ex and like wanted to get in, get out. And he, of course, called and said, like, "Are you safe? Are the kids safe? Is everything safe? Are you okay?" And I was fine. So we do very, very well. All that to say, we do very, very well. And I just wanted to hug that poor child so badly. But I didn't always do things well. And
Mm-hmm.
to deny that for my children and to not like give that breath and light, I was potentially creating a cycle for them. And that was why I left my marriage, because I had a moment of saying, like, either one of these kiddos can be either one of us.
Right.
And that's not safe and happy and healthy for them. And I was a stay-at-home mom who left our marital home. And I said to my kids right in the beginning, like, if you want to be angry at me for the rest of your life, if there's just like part of you that needs to hold some anger towards me because I shifted all of the gears and moved your planet, like, I will hold space for that. And you are entitled and you should like take it up with me.
Yeah. I saw something, some, TikTok, whatever,
Right.
where it was like, my job isn't to always make you happy. My job is to love you.
Yeah. Yeah. And also to admit my own mistakes and to know, it's so funny because they become like different, more clear, audible lessons that you can talk about as your children get older. But it's
Yeah.
really all the same lesson from the moment that they're born. It's, like you have to teach your baby how to feed, whether it's from a bottle or from your body. And there's going to be days where you're tired and you're going to miss their mouth through the bottle, or you're not going to put them on right. You just always have to be aware of the corrections and that ideal. I am not a type A person. I do have, and I know you are, and I have huge envy for people who are, because, whatever, my brain, sometimes my outsides look like my insides. I mean, my house is neat, all the things, but oh my gosh, I am a cluttered mess in my brain in so many ways. You just have to own it. And it's okay, like the idea of perfectionism, whether you're a cluttered mess like me or what I have such admiration for, an organized person, label maker like you, Sarah, like none of our plates are clean. None of our houses are perfect. It's all a house of cards anyway.
Right.
So you just have to find what works in all the different ways and apply it as such, and I mean, I listen to a lot of your podcasts, obviously, but like even listening to your mom talk and like losing all of that and you've talked about it so many times on Instagram, on your pod, about how she just kept always evolving and changing and seeing what the next version of her was going to be. I mean, what an
Yeah.
incredible thing to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a wild woman. She's the best.
Yeah,
But
it's so cool. And conversely, I had a mom who used to be like that. And my father passed away. I mean, my parents were together for 20 years, separated for 5, and got back together.
yeah, right. Which is,
Insane. So insane.
that's a wild
Wonder why
journey.
I'm divorced, but it's fine. My brother's marriage is great. But, you know, and it is sad for her. And I do feel badly that, they got back together for like this moment in life and he didn't quite make it to it. But her world stopped. That like now I'm left with a person that like I don't even know him. Like
Yeah.
that wasn't the person I was raised. And like for I don't want to cast aspersions or do anything, but like there's a part of me that like is disappointed in it. And because to me it's like a dishonoring of his memory. And also like it happens. Like sucks. But an older person passing from cancer is not a tragedy. It's a life cycle event. And
Yeah.
and it's so tragic, and I miss him, and it's awful, and I don't all the things, but it's all like it goes back to like that Instagram idea of like what parenting was, marriage was going to be like, and then what motherhood was going to be like, and then what this was going to be like, and we all have to figure it out by our 30s, and then it's
Which is
all this
nuts.
crazy. Oh, I hate it.
Like, I am a child. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
35 in like I don't know, a couple weeks. And I sometimes I'm like, that doesn't seem right.
Oh my, yeah. I mean, happy
Doesn't
birthday, yay! I'm going to be 48 in July, and in my brain, I am. I just hit 25.
right. And that's
Yeah,
where it's I
and
think
it goes along with all the things like that biological clock, and which is also is like a load of hooey and all of that
uh
stuff. It's just this
what did they
race to.
well, I guess they switched it from geriatric to advanced maternal age now, which
Yeah,
isn't much better.
yeah, and also
Geriatric.
it also doesn't even really matter actually. Like you were young and having and having Ronan, and you experienced IVF.
Yeah, I was 30.
You were young. You were prime baby making age. Same thing for me. I had, like I lost my first and had multiple miscarriages, and pregnancy was awful. And Sullivan is my youngest, is going to be 11, and I'm going to be 48. So I started back at 33, again, prime baby making ages. So like it's all, and then there's, one of my best friend's sisters was 42 having her first.
Yeah.
And someone else I know was 40, almost 45 having, like, it's all just a load of hurry. Like it's crazy. And there's pros and cons to all the sides,
Any choice
like
we make, any choice we make, there's going to
100%.
be this, this or that.
Yeah.
And I love how you approach, in particular, new mothers is like the way that feels right in your gut is right. And it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if that's what your mom did or your friend's doing or
Yeah.
whatever. Like there's a little piece of us. And this is actually this, it is funny because we were talking, like we're supposed to know what everything that we're supposed to do. There are certain things that I knew that I was like, oh, I don't know how I
Yeah.
do that. And I think
Yeah.
there is some of that like biological, and I still to
100%.
this day do it. Like I will wake up from the dead of sleep and be like, Ronan's going to wake up in the next 2 minutes. Like
Yeah.
that. Next two
Yeah.
minutes. There's like weird things like that. But that's been a big
I
thing.
knew my youngest had dyslexia at 3 years old.
Yeah.
And
You just
I could
know.
not get anyone to listen to me and believe me until he was 7.
Yeah.
And
But
I took him places,
no.
and I was like, he's brilliant, but he's ridiculously dyslexic. And I am watching this crush this little human. So same, he just
Yeah.
recently got diagnosed to be on the spectrum. He's high functioning in a scale of 1 to 9. He's like a 7.5. But the things that make that hard, I watch it in him. And
Yeah.
I said the same thing. And everyone's answer was, he's so smart. I'm like, oh, no, he's brilliant and made
That's
of
not, I'm not
magic.
saying he's not. Yeah.
Yeah. He's magical and funny and creative and smart and social and all these magical. And I call his brain to his face a magical mind. He is so cool. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's going through some pretty heavy stuff right now, and I'm supporting her. And I was saying to her that how beautiful this world would be. And I've tried to do it in my own world and mind and brain if we stopped using the word but and put and in there.
Yes.
And stop using the word just and put simply there instead.
Yep.
There's certainly times
the
for
just. The just
the
is like you
just,
were saying, well, I'm just a stay-at-home mom and you're
right.
meeting up with your friends. And I have friends that say that too. And I want to shake them and be like, what do you mean just? Do you know how much you do? How much you
Yeah.
give? Like that, and
And
it's
it's so much
unfortunately
more too
unpaid.
that there's so much more too. Like if you're checking up on a friend and you send a text that says just checking in, that check-in to that person isn't a just. It may have been the breath they needed all day.
Yeah.
If
That's
you need a
another,
word before it, how about simply, like, because there doesn't need to be any guilt about getting back or not getting back, just simply wanting to say hi. I have a dear friend
that's a
who
good
does
one.
amazing
Simply.
things in this world. And he randomly, and I try to do it too. I should be better at it. And not because I'm not good at it now, but because it's not altruistic. It makes me happy too. But he will randomly, it'll be like any old day, any old time, and he'll simply shoot a text that says, I hope your day is great. I was
And
thinking
you're
about
like,
you and I love
that's
you.
so lovely.
It's the best ever. There's no just to that. It's literally like makes my heart so happy. And it's true. Like there's so many people who pop in and out of your brain. It's all that same thing. And he is doing incredible things in this world and changing, so many things. And there's a lot of things on his resume that I could tell you are fantastic. And the greatest thing about him is that text. Yeah. Simply saying hi, you crossed my brain.
Yeah. Pop it
like
in.
that. Yeah. Doesn't take much. Yeah. The rules. And we do it in all the things, right? Like the rules of friendship, the rules of motherhood, the rules of marriage. So many rules. Just breathe. Simply
just stop saying just.
Yeah. Simply take 3 deep breaths and try. Right?
Yeah. That's all we can really do.
That's all we can do. Yeah, it just. Yeah, it is. I really, it's been a thing in my brain to truly try to take some of those words out of change how they're seen. Back to the children thing. You talk about Ronan and all the things, and someone will say, "Oh, my 2-year-old, my 3-year-old, they're so manipulative." Well, yeah, they are. Like they're trying to figure out their world in the way that you manipulate a piece of clay to make it beautiful. They are manipulative, but that's amazing. How brilliant are they? Because they're trying to see how they fit and what is right and what is appropriate. And it's our job to simply guide them.
What's so interesting is like, I wouldn't say that like manipulative to me, that word is like, oh, that's not a great word. But when I think about it, it's like
beautiful.
They're just trying to manipulate their surroundings. I actually
like
that for some reason. Because Ronan's like obsessed right now. He'll say everything's a boo-boo because he wants a kiss. And I'm like, yes, get on over here. But like he'll brush up against something, boo-boo, boo-boo, kiss. No, it is very true. And I think so much. Yeah. I love the work you're doing and I love what you put into this universe as just
I feel the same way about you.
Keep trying. We don't have to do this by ourselves.
One
and
foot in front of the other.
Guarantee you things that you have felt, many others have felt a very similar situation. So
we're not that original or that important.
Yeah. It's like, I really wish I was that awesome, but I'm just a person with a microphone. To be honest, I just simply I'm just loud. I'm just a loud person.
No, I am also so grateful for the work that you put out in the world. It's so lovely. And it's so fantastic to know that there are other people who share just trying to take a deep breath and survive. It's such a gift to everyone who comes in contact with you. It's really great.
Very sweet. Thank you. You can find Liz. I will tag everything up in the show notes as well over on Instagram, Nourished Fam. Website's also Nourished Fam. Nourished Families.
nourishedfamilies.org.
Yep. And then Facebook group as well. So I will go ahead and tag everything up in the show notes. Go find Liz. Awesome. Liz also has a dog named Steve, who is just like a real treat. Whenever Steve makes an appearance, like
he's in his bed right now.
It's a good time. Yeah. Steve is like, she's just always up to something. Go find Liz. She's an incredible human being. Liz, I appreciate you coming on and just sharing your light with us.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for this space. Good luck with all the things and the rest of the day. And we'll see each other. I know real soon.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Welcome to My 10 podcast. I hope you had as much fun listening as I do recording. I am so happy to have you here and see you next episode.